Tav Chof Beis Amud Beis, the second line from the top. If after the race they had a race to see who would be the one who would be zoicha to do the Trumas Hadeshen, if they were both equal, it was a tie, then they had a girl, and the Mamuna said, the one in charge said, put out your fingers, and they would do the girl, counting the fingers and arriving the one who the predetermined number ended on, he would be the one that would be zoicha. Tana, we learned in the Brayso, he said, put out your fingers for a count. You put out your fingers so we can count your fingers, so we can now count and do the goyrel and see who will be zoicha for the Trumas Hadeshen. Why count the fingers? Why not count the Kahanim themselves? It's also to count Yidden, to count the bodies, the people, even if it's a Dvar Mitzvah, and Shaul, when he counted the soldiers, he said he counted a bevosek. We're understanding that bosek at this point, we're understanding to mean that it was broken pieces of the kli cheres. It was broken pieces of the cheres, but he did not count the people. So that's where you see that it's also to count that you can't count the people. So therefore, we counted the fingers of the Kohanim and not the Kohanim themselves. The Meforshim are bothered. Why do we need this raya from Shaul? Why don't we have a raya brura? It says clearly in the Torah that there's a machzas shekel. It clearly says in the Torah that you count hisisas b'nei Yisrael, that you count them with the machzas shekel and not counting the people. The Marshal says because perhaps that was only at that time. There was after the chet of the egel, and therefore they needed the kapora, and they therefore needed through the machzas shekel. But perhaps in the future that would not be the case. The other Meforshim say, the Sfas other Meforshim say that there's no raya from the over there, because over there it's talking about Dvar Rishus. But perhaps for a Dvar Mitzvah, that you could count them directly, so that's why we bring the raya from Shaul. How do you know that Bezek means Lishon de Mizuku? It means it's a lotion of shattered, meaning it's broken pieces of the clay cheres. Maybe it means Vayifkedem bebazek. He counted them in the city, in the town called Bezek. Kidachsiv, like we see that it is a place. Vayimsu as Adoni Bezek bebezek. You see that it's the name of a place. So maybe that's what it means. It's no raya that he counted them with the broken pieces of the shards of the kli cheres. Elam hacha, the Gemara says a different raya. Vayisham Shaul es am vayifkedem betlaim. And Shaul listened to the people and he counted them through lambs. So you see that he did not count them directly, he used lambs. Someone directly counts the Yidden, he's over with Allah, because it says, that cannot be counted, meaning that therefore it's allowed that you cannot count them. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Omar, he says two lavim, shenemar lo yimad v'lo yisofer. It says lo yimad, it cannot be measured or counted. So therefore, there's two lavim involved. Omar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani, he said, Rabbi Yonasan Rami. Rabbi Yonasan asked us here, it says that the number of Bnei Yisrael will be like the sand of the sea. The sand of the sea, it's a huge, vast amount, but it's a finite number. There is a number attached to it. But it says that it cannot be measured or counted, meaning that it's infinite. It has no limit on it. More answers like Kasha, Kan, Bezman, Shishal, Oisim, Ritzon, Malkam. When they do the Ritzon Shel Malkam, it's infinite. The number is infinite. Kan, Bezman, She'ein, Oisim, Ritzon Shel Malkam. When it's Ein, Oisim, Ritzon Shel Malkam, then it is finite. It's not infinite. The Eitz Yosef explains it that Oisim, Ritzon Shel Malkam, it's infinite, meaning since the Oisim, Ritzon Shel Malkam, you can't even measure one person. The greatness or what a person represents in itself can't be measured because of the greatness of a yid that's Oiser Ritzon Shel Malkam. So it's Oiser Ritzon Shel Malkam, you can't measure them because they're infinite in their value. Their value, the greatness is infinite. Rabbi Amar Mishum Abba Yosef ben Dustoi Loi Kasha. He says a different terence. He says, Kan bidei Adam, Kan bidei Shamayim. As bidei Adam, it can't be measured. Bidei Shamayim, it can be measured. Amar Ravani Loi Bar Idi Amar Shmuel. He says, we learn out from the Maisa of Shaul that we just mentioned. We learn out, Kevan Shenismad Adam Parnas Halat Tzibor. Once a person is appointed as a leader of the community, Misasher, he becomes wealthy. Where do we see that? We see that from this Maisa. Mikoreksi Vayivtgem Vayivkedem Bebezek. It initially says that he counted them bebezek, which we are understanding as we did before that it means broken pieces of the kli cheres. So he counted them with something that had an insignificant value. And then afterwards it says he counted with lambs, which are very valuable. So when he's in his mana that at Parnas Halat Tzibor, he became wealthy. How do you know that the sheep, that the lambs were his? Maybe it came from Bnei Yisrael. How do you know that he himself became wealthy? Or it says him came my revusa the milsa. If that's so, why would it make a point of telling us that? There's no point to telling us if he just took it from the Yisrael. It must be that it was his personally, and he personally became wealthy. So it says, referring to Shaul HaMelech, that he went to war against Amalek. It says Vayorev ben Nachal. And it says that he fought them in the Nachal, in the valley. Ama Rabbi Mani al Iske Nachal. It says that there was a dispute, there was a contention over here al Iske Nachal, on the halacha, on something, a mitzvah, which has to do with something in the Nachal, in the valley, which is the Egla Arufa, the din, the mitzvah of Egla Arufa, which it says that it has to be decapitated. The neck has to be broken in the valley, in the Nachal. What's the pshat? So he explains. When Hashem said to Shaul, Lech v'ki says Amalek, you should kill out Amalek and kill them out completely. Men, women, and children, and all of their animals. Omar, Shmuel argued, so that's Vayarik, that was the debate. Ari says, Man nefesh achas. Amra Taira Have Egla Rufa Madach, if there was one person who's killed, you don't know who the killer is. There's a chiv to bring an Egla Rufa for a kapora, Kolan Fashas Allah, Achas Kama Kama, all these lives will be taken and they'll all be killing. So certainly their kapora is required. Vim Adam Chatam, and if the men of Amalek sinned, they did a chat, Behim Chatam. Why do the animals deserve to be killed? And even if the Gedolim deserve it, why do the Ketanim deserve to be killed? So therefore, there certainly is a kapara that is required over here. And therefore, what Shaul did, now he did kill out the people, but he didn't kill out Agag, and he didn't kill all the animals, but he brought the animals for a korban, because he reasoned that he would require a kapara. So when he said that, Yasa Baskol Va'amra, a Baskol came up from Shemaim and said, Al Ti Tzadik Harbe. Don't be too much of a tzaddik. You're having such a tzaddik, you're having a rachmanas on these Rishoim, don't be a tzaddik harbe. Being a tzaddik when you shouldn't, having compassion when you shouldn't, leads to a chet. Ubishal Shamala Shal L'Doig. And when Shaul said to Doig Hadami, Save Ata Ufagaba Kohanim, go and circle around and kill out Noiv Ira Kohanim, Yasabaskol Va'amraloi Al Tirsha Harbe. Don't be too much of a Rasha, don't be a Rasha too much. So therefore, it is, if you're meaning, the connection between the two is that if you have Rachmanas when you're not supposed to have Rachmanas, you won't have Rachmanas when you're supposed to have Rachmanas. He shouldn't have had Rachmanas on a Molek, and he didn't have Rachmanas on Noiv Ira Kohanim when he should have. So how fortunate a person, he's spared from being sick, sickness and worry. A person has Siyata D'Shmaya, because Rabbi Shalom helps him. Shaul ba'achas also. Shaul did one Aveira, and it was counted against him, and he lost the Melucha. Dovid b'shtayim v'lay also. Dovid did two Aveiras, and it was not counted against him, meaning he didn't lose the Melucha. Shol ba'achas mahi, what was that aver? Maisa d'Agag. It's the Maisa of Agag, where he did not kill out Agag Melech Amalek. Frek the Gemara, it was only one. V'ayika Maisa d'Naivi Kahana, it was also the avera for killing out Naivi Kahana. Gemara answers, a Maisa d'Agag Siv, yes, it's true, that was another avera, but for the one avera itself, for the avera of Agag on its own, he lost the Melucha. Over there, a Maisa d'Agag Siv, it says that I regret making Shaul the king. So for the one Avera, he lost the Melucha for that Avera on its own. Dovid v'shtayim, and he did not lose a Melucha. Dovid v'shtayim, mine, were the two Averas, the Uriah or the Hassasa. It is Uriah that he sent Uriah, the husband of Bathsheba, to the front to be killed in the battle. The exact Avera of what this was exactly is not so clear. The Gemara says, Kol Omer Dovid Chata Eino Latoya. That some of the Forshim say it's because he didn't consult with the Sanhedrin first. So what precisely the Avera is a matter of discussion. But there was Avera of Uriah Udas also, and he was enticed to count Bnei Yisrael. Those are the two Averas. There was also the Maisa of Bathsheba that he had relations with Bathsheba before Uriah was killed. So again, the Gemara, and there's much discussion on this, that it wasn't a Maisa of Eishasish because a get was given al Tanai, and therefore she was considered to be a Pnuya, but there was an element of Chil Hashem. So exactly what the Avera is a matter of discussion, but there was a certain Avera for having relations with Bathsheba at that time. So there was also this Avera. Why do you only count two? The Gemara says, there he was punished. It says for the lamb that is a mashal for Bathsheba, for taking Bathsheba, he was punished 4 times, for four punishments. What are the 4 punishments? Yeled, he had the child that died very young, right after the birth. And Amnon, his son Amnon, was killed. Tamar, that she was nanas. Avshalom, and there was Avshalom, his son Avshalom, who was married b'Malchus and tried to kill him, and Avshalom himself was killed. So for that, he was punished for that. He had a punishment for that. Over there in the counting, the chet is sent for counting, he was also punished. It says that Hashem made a pestilence, a dever, Israel, and he made the dever, he made the plague and the pestilence from the morning until the set time. So you see that there was a punishment. One answers, over there, it wasn't a punishment against David HaMelech's body. He suffered that emotionally from it and was a tsar from it, but it wasn't a punishment against him personally, against his goof personally. So over there, that's why he is not considered a punishment, and he was considered not punished for these Averas. So Shaul HaMelech had one Avera, and right away the Melucha was taken away. David HaMelech had these other 2 punishments, but did not have this kind of personal punishment for it. So, well, in the case of Bathsheba, also, why it also wasn't punished from him himself. Mara says no. There was a physical punishment for that as well for Bathsheba. For 6 months after the mice with Bathsheba, David had tsaras. He was a leper. He had tsaras. And the Sanhedrin separated themselves from him. And the Shechina departed from him. David HaMelech, he is inspired to Hashem, and he says that your Yerecha, those fear you, those who know your halachas, meaning the Sanhedrin or the Talmid Chachamim, that Yeshuvali, they should be restored to me, they should come back to me. Uksiv, Hashivali Sasain, Yishecha, it says, restore to me the Yisasain, the joy of Yishecha, of your salvation, meaning the Shechina. So therefore, he was punished for that one for Basheva. It's not counted because he did have a personal punishment. But there's still another Avera. The David HaMelech had yet another Avera. He was Makabal Lashon Hara, except Lashon Hara. Then initially, David HaMelech gave Shaul's estate to Mephibosheth, the son of Yonasan. But Sivya told him, the slave of Shaul, told him that when David HaMelech was running away from Avshalom, that Mephibosheth didn't join David HaMelech, he was rebelling against him. And there, David accepted that Lashon Hara, and he said that the estate should be split and divided between Mephibosheth and Sivya. So you see, he had the avera of accepting Lashon Hara. More answers, Kishmuel, the Amr lo kibel David Lashon Hara. It's according to Shmuel, that says no, that he was not Mekabel Lashon Hara. And he says that there were circumstances that showed that Mephibosheth was sad about David's return to Yerushalayim after Avshalom's rebellion. Umar says, alternatively, Ularav Nami Damar Kibel David Lashon Hara, and even according to Rav, we said that David HaMelech was Mekabel Lashon Hara, but it's not a kasha because he was punished. Damar of Yehuda Marav B'Shosha Amar Loi David the Mephibosheth. When David said to Mephibosheth, Amarti Ata v'Tziva Techalkos Hasadeh, he said that you and Tziva will divide up the estate, divide up the field. So, meaning that he was Makabel the Lashon Hara, he accepted the Lashon Hara, and he took away half the estate from Mephibosheth. Yatsa Baskal v'Amar Loi Rechavim Yeravim Yechalkos HaMalchus, as a punishment. Then Yeravim and Rechavim and Yeravim, your son Rechavim, will have to split the Malchus with Yeravim. Your Malchus will be divided. So that was a punishment. So discussing further about Shaul HaMelech, it says Ben Shana, Shaul b'Malchai, he was a year old when he reigned, when he started to be king, which obviously does not mean he was 1 year old when he started to be king. So Pashup Shades means in the first year of his Malchus. But we darshan Amar of Huna, Ki Ben Shana Shalai Tam Chet. Why does it say he was 1 year old, so to speak? Meaning, just like a 1 year old doesn't have a chet, he didn't have a chet. Maybe like a baby, like a 1 year old that's dirty with dirty diapers, meaning he had a virus. So after he said that, that night the Maloche of Kabbalah, angels of terror, were shown to him in a dream. He said, I spoke improperly and excessively to you, Shaul ben Kish. And again he saw these malach, and Omar Nenesilchem Asma Shaul ben Kish Melech Yisrael. So therefore he gave them the covenant, and he called him Melech Yisrael.